That works for me. You're more than you have become. So when we look at this story, we see this lion. He's supposed to be the king, but he has some stuff that happens in his past, and he feels like it disqualifies him from being used to the capacity that he's supposed to be used. And we have this evil entity or this bad villain person come up to him and whisper in his ear and speak to him and say, you killed him, it's your fault, you did all this bad stuff, you should run away, run far away, and never look back, never return, you're disqualified, you're not good enough anymore. Now I know it's not exactly like the story of Moses, but baby, it's pretty close. It is pretty close. So, anyways, when we look at the Old Testament, we look at a lot of stuff that happens that is physical, but when we look at it in the New Testament, a lot of it is spiritual. But a lot of the stories are synonymous or close or similar to the stories that we have. So in the story in Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20, it says, so they arrived at the other side of the lake in the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out from the tombs to meet him. The man lived in the burial caves and could no longer be restrained even with the chain. Whenever he was put into chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrist and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Remember that no one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones. When Jesus was still some distance away, the man saw him and ran to meet him and bowed low before him. With a shriek he screamed, why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me. For Jesus had already said to the spirit, come out of the man, you evil spirit. Then Jesus demanded, what is your name? And he replied, my name is Legion, because there are many of us inside this man. Then the evil spirits begged him again and again not to send them to some distant place. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on the hillside nearby. Send us into those pigs, the spirit begged. Let us enter them. So Jesus gave them permission. The evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs and entered the herd of about 2,000 pigs, and they plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town and surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what had happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there fully clothed, perfectly sane, and they were all afraid. Then those who had seen what had happened told the others about the demon-possessed man and the pigs, and the crowd began pleading with Jesus, go away and leave them alone. And as Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. But Jesus said, no, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful he has been. So the man started off to visit the 10 towns of the region and began to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed at what he told them. So first thing I want you guys to look at is that this man had a family. He wasn't just some random guy who showed up out of nowhere. He had a family that he was going home to. He started off as a regular person. He started off as just like us, just a regular person. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen demon possession, and I don't know, because it's not something that we really see or hear about very often except on scary movies. There was a guest preacher here, probably about 3 years ago, maybe 4. And there was a guy here, and he was possessed with a demon. And they did a little exorcist thing right there in the middle of the floor. It was weird. And he got up, started talking, left the church and walked down the street. It was weird. Not my expertise. I don't understand it. I don't know it. I'm not even going to get into it. But you guys are like, how does this relate to this and this? So in the Old Testament, Moses has these demons because he's actually killed somebody, and he's running for his life because he's committed murder. He's committed treason against his own nation, his own kingdom. But in the New Testament, we focus more on the spiritual side of it. So when we talk about demons, we talk about skeletons in your closet. We talk about things that you've done that you don't want anybody to know about. Things that you wrestle with, your addictions, your brokenness, that you don't want to tell anybody about. Those things are our demons. And they're keeping us and hindering us from living and walking out what God has called us to do, because we believe that they disqualify us from being used by God. And these are the things shackles on him. They put chains on him. They bound him. They put him out in the graveyard away from them. He was at a place where people buried things. That's where he lived. That's where he resided. So my question to you is, what dreams have you buried? What ideas have you buried? What goals have you buried? What ambitions and desires have you buried? What has God birthed inside of you? What has God put inside of you that you know you were created to do, but you buried and you suppressed it because you have demons that you're fighting? Or you have struggles and issues that you're warring against, and you feel like you're not good enough to be used by God to that capacity. What are you hiding? What have you buried? What have you laid to rest because you don't believe that God can ever use you to do and fulfill the thing that you feel like you've been created to do? It is an ugly, awful place to be alive and not be fulfilled. Because it's like you're running on a hamster wheel, but you're not going anywhere. You're constantly working, doing, going, but you're not achieving anything. You're not accomplishing anything. And I think this is where a lot of us are when we're wrestling with fear, because God has called us to so much greater and to so much more, but we're living in fear. We're hiding in plain sight. And I believe this is an attack from the enemy, because the enemy knows how great that you possibly can be. He knows that God has created you for so much more, and he's not nervous about you raising your hands in the youth group. He's not nervous about you getting up and leading worship in the youth group, or even teaching a small Bible study at school. He's not worried about that, because that has a little bit of impact, but that's not world changing. He's terrified that if you find out who you are and you understand your identity in Christ, that you will absolutely take over and transform the world. If you'll find out that my power and my identity is not wrapped up in the people that I know, the clothes that I have, the shoes that I wear, how much education that I have, not how good I can speak or how good I look. If you find out that your identity is wrapped up in God and the way that he's created you, then you will take over and transform the world. When we see this man who's possessed by these demons, the demons said, don't send us somewhere else. Send us into these pigs. Because Jesus was in a place that wasn't Jerusalem. He was in a place that was not where the Jews were, which were the people that he came to deliver the word, the message to, and to save and redeem, so that the people of the outside world would look at them and desire a relationship with God. He was somewhere else. He was on the other side of the water, in a place where they had pigs. So pigs are considered unclean. So Jews don't have any dealings with pigs. So for them to have a farm suggests that this was not a Jewish place. So Jesus, God incarnate, wrapped in the flesh, Jesus Christ, goes over across this lake in a storming sea, chaos, tossing, turning, people terrified he's going to die, goes over there for one appointment. He's over there for moments, literally moments, and speaks life to a man, and looses a man, and redeems a man, and frees a man, and goes back to the other side. Literally moments for one person. And this person begs Jesus. He's saying, Jesus, let me go with you. Let me go and follow you. Let me sit under your teaching. Let me experience all that you have to do, all that you are. You saved my life. I want to be with you. And Jesus says, you know what? I need you over here where you're at. I need you to go to people that you're like, who believe like you believe, who think like you think, who are similar in your culture, your ideas. Go back to your family and tell them the good news of God. The fact that I saved you, that I loosed you, that I set you free, and I gave you purpose and direction for your life. Go and tell them that, because Jesus was constricted. They said, no, you can't come over here. We don't want you here. Go away. And the thing that I love about God is he doesn't force us to accept him. He doesn't force himself on us. He doesn't force himself on us, but he says, I've got somebody here. I want you to go. And he goes to 10 towns, 10 different towns, and spreads the good news of Jesus Christ. In places where Jesus was not accepted, in places where Jesus was not desired, in places where Jesus could not go, he goes and tells them the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And completely changes his world, that known world where they were at. Completely turns it upside down. And people come to a saving grace and a saving understanding of Jesus Christ. So the first thing that I want to ask you guys is, who told you that? Who told you that you weren't good enough? Who told you that you weren't smart enough? Who told you that you weren't handsome enough or taller enough or good enough? Who told you that lie? Who spoke that over you? And why are you believing it? Who said, can you remember being a child and being in your house, you would just dance? Without any hindrance, without any thought about it, you would just go. And everybody like, oh, look at the baby, oh! But when you got out in the real world and you cared about what saying the things that you believe in, the things that you thought. Everything that I'm saying to you now, most of the stuff that I'm saying to you now, I had in my heart when I was 13. Well, I started reading my Bible when I was in 6th grade because I got suspended from school, and I figured if I read my Bible, then I would not get grounded, and I didn't get grounded. So I started reading my Bible. I started in Psalms, reading the Bible, and I would hear my parents talking, and I would hear people talking and discussing things, and I would have a biblical answer in my mind, but I would never speak it because I had never been validated in a way to know that my voice was important. I had never been validated in a way to where I could speak and know that people would listen to me. So for 10 years, I kept all that inside because I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that I was smart enough. I didn't think that I was enough. And this is why I'm in youth ministry, to tell you guys that you have a voice and God has called you for something greater. Walk in the things that He's called you to. Who told you that you could not? In Romans 8:31 and 33. Does anybody have a Bible? I need a couple people to read verses. We're about to close and then go on to small. I need someone else to get Romans 12:1 and 2. Someone else to get Jeremiah 31:35.
What was the first one?
Romans 8:31 and 33.
8.
31 and 33. Then Romans 12:1 and 2. Come on, ladies. Romans 12:1 and 2. Who got it? Who got it? You got it? Romans 12:1 and 2. Come on, Linda. Okay, Jeremiah 31:35. Easy, one verse. All right. And then Romans 4:3 and 4. This is my favorite one. And it's short too. Romans 4:3 and 4.
You said 31 and 35.
It's Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 35. Okay, Romans 8:31 and 33.
What then shall we say in the response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare His own Son, but gave up all for us, how will He not also, along with Him, graciously give us all things? Who will bring any charge against those whom God has chosen? If it is God who justifies.
So God has justified you, and He has prepared you, and He's equipped you, and He called you. People don't ask you to do stuff if they don't think that you're capable of doing the thing that they ask you to do, because it looks bad on their part. They ask you because they see something inside of you, or they see something about you, and they say, that is perfect for the thing that I need done. Walk in that. Understand that God has called you, He's equipped you, He's prepared you, He is going to use you if you will trust Him and obey Him and do the thing that He has called you to do. Don't worry about failing. Don't worry about messing up. Don't worry. Don't let fear overcome you and consume you. Walk in faith, because it's not about you. It's about God being glorified. It might be good that you try and do something and completely fail. Just fall completely on your face, because you know what that's going to do? Draw you closer to God. And it's going to compel somebody else to say, if they can do that and fail, I can do that and probably succeed. Or if I fail, it won't be that bad. Even the jacked up parts of your life, the parts that you hate, that you wish no one would ever see or know, God is using those things to get glory out of them and to propel you to depend on Him even more. Who told you that? Who said you're not good enough? Who told you you're not smart enough? You're not beautiful enough? You're not handsome enough? Who told you that? I don't have Corona. And why are you believing it? Romans 12:1 and 2. You need to change your mind. Romans 12:1 and 2.
Oh.
I was talking and spitting down there. No, it's okay. Romans 12:1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brother, by the mercy of God, to present yourself as a living sacrifice unto Him, holy and acceptable and pleasing, which is your reasonable worship. And do not be conformed to the pattern of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove the will of God. It's good and perfect.
What Eric said last week, 2 weeks ago.
It's exactly what he said last week. it takes it and it gives you, it breaks it down where you can, this is what you need to do in your life. It sets surrender your entire life to God. All of the parts, even the parts that you don't like, so he can use the messy stuff, because the messy stuff is really what people need. They don't need this super tidy, clean, perfect Christian. They need the broken you, the one that's struggling believing if God is even real, struggling with tithing, or struggling with getting up and going to church on Sunday mornings, or just watching online. They need to know the real you so they can know that there's a God for their jacked up parts also. You need to change your mind about what you believe in, why you believe in, how you believe it, and figure out who God is and trust him over all those other voices and all those other words that are being spoken. Jeremiah 31:35. Ooh, baby.
This is what the Lord says. He who appoints the sun to shine by day, who decrees the moon and stars to shine by night, who stirs up the sea so that the waves roar, and the Lord Almighty is his name.
How many of you think the sun is beautiful? You love the sun. Don't stare at it because you're not supposed to. It'll take all this out. None of it. How many of you think the stars and the moon are beautiful? At night, these fall nights, oh my goodness, when it's pitch black and it's just sun, it's just moon and stars out and it's beautiful, and you see shooting stars going across, my absolute favorite. What about the ocean? And maybe if you've never been there, but you've seen pictures of it, it looks beautiful, and all the creation, the whales and the fish and the squids and calamari, whatever that stuff is, and what about the mountains? How many of you guys love the mountains? Yeah, and the big giant moose and bears. And how many of you guys think lions and tigers and bears are beautiful? They have beautiful fur. You love them. You think that they look wonderful and amazing. And you adore them. And you don't say, oh, that's ugly. How ridiculous would it be if the sun decided, you know what? I feel fat today, so I'm not going to get up and shine. How disrespectful would that sun be? The only difference between us and the sun is that God gave us the freedom to choose. But we never say, oh, the sun looks stupid today. You know, the moon, no, it's not beautiful. We admire the beauty of everything else that God has created except the way that he's created us. It's the exact same artist. So why do you question your value? Why do you question if you're good enough? You don't look at the sun and say, you're not doing your job. So why do you talk to yourself like that? Why do you feel that way about yourself? This is what I'm saying to you. The enemy is terrified that you will figure out who you are and fulfill and do all that God has planned for you and completely set this world on fire. And what happens is when you know who you are, when you know your identity, and you're walking in the calling that God has prepared and equipped for you to do, you're advancing the kingdom of God. Thus, you're beating back the kingdom of the devil and hell and all darkness. The enemy does not want you to succeed because your succession is his defeat. When you thrive as a believer, as a Christian, as a person, the gates of hell are trembling. Yeah. So if he can keep you afraid and confused and broken, battling those demons, questioning your worth and your value, and afraid, am I good enough? He can keep you from doing all that God has for you. Romans 4:3 and 4.
The scriptures tell us Abraham believes God and God.
I'm sorry, it's Romans 3. I'm sorry. Romans 3, 4 and 3. 3 and 4. Sorry. Pastor did it Sunday. I felt good. It's not just me.
True, some of them were unfaithful, but just because they were unfaithful doesn't mean that God will be unfaithful. Of course not. Even if everyone else was a liar, God is true, as the scriptures say about him.
All right. So I struggle with this one because I feel like it's kind of out of context, but what it's saying is, even if everybody else is lying, even if everybody else is wrong, God is still right. Yeah. So I don't care if your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your auntie, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa, pastor, youth pastor, worship pastor, youth sponsor, everybody in the youth group, everybody at your school, everybody in Beaker, Shawnee, Craig, Chandler, surrounding towns, everybody in Oklahoma, America, and the entire world said that you're ugly, stupid, worthless, no good, and sorry. If everybody said it, it doesn't matter. Because that's not what God is saying. If every single person says, not good enough, it doesn't matter. Because what God says stands. If everybody else declares, no, we don't want you. Let every man be a liar and God be true. And when you find out who you are, you take over the region, you take over the world. Let's roll this last